Hi, it's Rebecca Pay here from Pay for Position. I'm the kick-ass CV writer that you need in your life. But I wanted to talk today about AI and using it with CV creation and help with your CV, to be honest. A lot of people ask about AI and do I use it? Should you use it? And it gets quite a bad name as well, to be honest, with CV writing. It can create very generic, awful CVs and cover letters. As for which AI to use, if you're going to use one, I use ChatGPT. It's not just because it's the most common one, but it happens to be the one that I started using, so it's the one I know how to use properly. And it learns data, it learns information about you now, and kind of remembers it for next time and stuff. So it's quite useful if you use the same one. I'm open to using different ones. And to be honest, this method of doing things, which I'm going to talk to you about today, is a specific example of how to use it to help you adapt a CV for an actual job application. So that would work with any different AI software, to be honest. It's going to be very similar, but I'm basing mine on using ChatGPT because that's what I'm familiar with and what I've done. So obviously, there may be a few differences. Anyway, the one thing to say with this, slight precursor, is these AI systems are very helpful and they're obviously getting better every day. But they're as good as the tools and the person that's using them and the data you give it. It's not going to magically make something amazing if you don't give it very much. You can't just give it some dust and then expect it to come up with, Michelangelo's David. It's going to need some creativity and help from you as well. Like it has to have that data input in the first place. The thing is with anything AI like ChatGPT, yes, it's got a whole heap of information. It's got access to every bit of information, etc. Still needs that information from you in the first place because otherwise it's not going to be able to create anything very good. It will fill in the blanks. Like essentially, if you don't give it enough information, it will fill in the blanks and potentially make things up. And when it comes to CVs, if you're doing creative copywriting, that's not so bad. But if it comes to CV writing, it needs to be accurate, doesn't it? If it starts filling in the blanks and making things up that you haven't actually done, that's not helpful to you or anyone that you send the CV or resume to. So, anyway, let's get into it. So, the specific example I want to use is if you've got a pretty decent CV, but you want to adapt it to a job role. Now, I was always advised, look back at previous videos, I always advise you to adapt a CV to a job role. When you apply to a job, yes, you can send out the same CV to loads, you can put it on a job board, etc. That will work to an extent, but I think especially in today's market, you need to be specific with your CV and you need to target it for roles. I think it's much better to have, say, 10 applications over a week, very targeted roles that you definitely want, than send out 100 and hope for the best. I think you need to be a little more competitive now because there are so many people applying for every role. So, assuming we have a decent CV to start with, if you don't, get my course on Udemy and get a CV created, or contact me if you want to pay me to do it. But yeah, have a good CV to start with. That's what we're assuming. Um, then have the job description. So obviously, some job descriptions are better than others. Obviously, the more detailed you've got about the job description, the more details you've got about the role. So if you've got information about various different things, all the skills that they want and things like that, it's perfect. Like if it's a very short one, it's going to be a lot harder to do this. But what you need to do then is give ChatGPT your CV. So I personally, if I do this, I would cut and paste without the personal details, like just the actual basis of the CV. So I wouldn't bother with the contact details and stuff because I think you need to be a little bit wary of what you're sharing with ChatGPT. And then the job description and put them both in and like describe them. So like this is the CV, this is the I put it on a Word document first and then this is the CV, this is the job, and then give it instructions. And so for example, you need to give it if it's US or UK spelling. I mean, if you're getting it to write things, you want to tell it to use the tone of voice and stuff. But at this point, I wouldn't worry about those things too much, but it's just points to note that it will do. Otherwise, it will default to things like US spelling. Anyway, I digress. So yeah, put that in and then give it some information and say what you want it to do. Give it an instruction. So what you need it to do is say, please compare this CV to this job description and tell me what I need on this CV, like what I need to add to this CV to make it better for this job role. Like if I'm using this CV to apply for this job role, what am I missing? Basically, however you want to word it, and ask it for like a short summary of bullet points of the points that you're missing, because you don't want it so lengthy that you're there all day. So hopefully, then it will then deliver to you a list of bullet points of the things that you could adapt and change and improve on the CV. So it might say, oh, you need to give better examples of these type of projects, or you haven't showcased this skill, blah, 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 blah. Now, if you just asked it to create a new CV based on the job role, yes, it can do that, but it's also going to then be making stuff up potentially to say that you've got such and such a skill, or you've got such and such project knowledge that you may not have. Whereas if you get it to give you a list of the things that the CV needs, you can then look at those and say, oh, actually, yeah, I have done that, or I haven't done something quite like that, but I could, talk about that other skill that's transferable, etc. And it will help you realize which bits are missing. And then you can obviously go in and adapt your own CV. Now, you could get it to do a bit more work for you if you wanted. You could sort of give it the skills section and say, can you reword this to move this in, etc., and keep the same tone of voice, like tell it those things. But I think even just getting that information in the first place is really, really helpful. Like, it's incredibly quick at doing things like that, comparing one document to another, and pointing out things that are missing and things, which is something that if you're doing yourself, it's going to take a lot longer. Obviously, when it's your own CV, you kind of know what's in there, but it's still more specific in this way, and it'll give you good examples of things that you could add in. I think it's a really helpful tool, and it's a really good way of using ChatGPT to adapt your CV to hopefully get yourself some interviews. So yeah, I hope that's really helpful. Obviously, comment below if you've got any questions. I'm going to be doing a ton more of these videos, so I'm always open to ideas for any other subjects you want to cover. I will probably do more ChatGPT stuff, but yeah, I'll go into anything you like about LinkedIn and CV writing. So just let me know if there's any subjects you want me to cover or any questions, and I will see you all soon. Thanks a lot.